we go.
Yeah, that's right, everybody. Good morning. It is time for the Eye on Sports with B-Ball Jones at 8 a.m. here on AM 730. Well, I'm sorry, AM 1600. The Force Field, the Power Pack 50,000-watt AM station. We are also on YouTube, streaming live. You go to WMQM 1600 Memphis. You will find us on the YouTube. So we are here. Hopefully you are here with us. I am Ira Lipsy, the Eye on Sports. Jay Brenner, B-Ball Jones is in the his.
Good morning.
Mark Kaplan, the true guru, in the his.
Yo, yo, yo.
Lots to talk about today. Memphis Tiger basketball occurred last night. The biggest story ever to hit the news since yesterday's news. I mean, if you weren't aware that Zion Williamson's shoe blew up and he got hurt, you're living in a cave.
It's true.
And we're going to talk about that. NBA will be kicking back off tonight. Thank goodness the return of Kevin Love is imminent for the Cleveland Cavaliers because they're the worst team in basketball. And we'll talk about what to expect maybe from the Grizzlies in the second half. And I don't know, I'm sure you guys got something important to talk about as well. I guess we can talk about what you guys want to talk about.
Ira, historic night at FedEx Forum last night.
Yeah, historic in respects that it is the first time ever, and this was very hard to believe. I could not believe it. First time ever in the history of the Memphis program, an individual player scored 40 points for the second time in their career.
That's correct. I also think I want to get all the stats right, but I believe it was the most points ever by a player in the American Athletic Conference. The highest single game total.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but you might be right. I found it hard. I guess there's been players that have scored more than 43 for Memphis, but not multiple times in a career. And people probably would instantly start to think about guys like Derrick Rose, maybe Penny Hardaway. I wasn't thinking about those guys. I was just thinking about more like, maybe in the days of where you had a guy on a team that could dominate another team and may have scored that many in the season twice. But no, Jeremiah Martin is certainly on a tremendous hot streak. And he scored 43 last night after coming off a 41-point performance in the second half against USF a couple weeks ago. The difference is they won last night, and they won handily.
New American Hoops single-game record, 43 points. Added 7 rebounds, 8 assists.
Yeah, and steals and blocks. I mean, he was all over the place. Begins to make you wonder where this team would be without him.
Well, it makes me wonder, where they'd be without him, but it also makes me wonder what they would look like. And again, this is not criticism, but just had they featured him earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure he was fully healthy.
Number one, I'm not sure he was fully healthy. Number two, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's a great question. It's purely hypothetical. What they have, they were in the head in games against Texas Tech, against, they were in the LSU game. Would they have won some of those games? The one where they were in the tournament against Charleston.
Sure.
What was the tournament in Orlando?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, those games, would that have made a difference? Possibly, maybe not, whatever. It doesn't matter now. You're moving forward.
This is how you're playing, and it wouldn't have changed.
And you had some other good performances last night. However, I mean, it's really, you're playing Tulane. And let's be honest, it's the 15th loss in a row for Tulane. They're 4-21. They're garbage.
Hard to argue that, Ira.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. But as you said, historic night. Actually, it's what I said. You agreed. I'm saying it again.
Yeah.
Fourth time. Historic night at FedEx Forum. 43 points. First player ever to score 40 twice in one season. Also, highest single game total in American Athletic Conference history. And that's a deep, rich history, Mark, dating back like 6 years.
I also want to give a shout out because it was a historic night. I don't know if Jay, were you there?
Negative.
Okay. My buddy who I have season tickets with, Matt, shot the independent bank 3-point shot.
Oh, that was your guy?
It was my guy last night.
And
He clanked it, did not make it.
nice.
Oh, because one guy hit a half-court shot.
Yeah, the other guy hit a half-court shot.
Last
That was
night?
not my buddy.
The guy hit a half-court shot last night.
Yeah, it was on TV
Yeah, and then goes and celebrates
in the huddle.
in the huddle and got kicked out.
Oh, really?
Not of the game, just like
No, I understand. They, I mean, that's like the fourth time this season someone's hit the half-court shot, which is like ridiculous. That all they win is a year of free haircuts. We got to get some better sponsors to pony up a little cash for that.
Here's the question that I want to throw out, and we'll talk about it all show. Call the show, 452-3094. I haven't even presented this yet to the True Guru or the Ion Sports. Here's the question. Jeremiah Martin, best senior year for a Tiger since fill in the blank.
When did we have a player named Fill in the blank?
Exactly.
You mean what's the player? Okay, I got you.
Also, am I the only one that thinks Robert Dozer and kind of Davenport with his new haircut look kind of similar?
I've said that before as well.
I would probably say that since that 2018. I mean, I don't think you can pick one guy.
There weren't really. I mean, the only senior off that
Yeah,
team
who was the senior?
Antonio Anderson was a senior.
Was a junior.
I thought
He was a senior the next year.
I'm saying, yeah, he finished as a senior.
Dorsey, CDR, all those guys.
CDR went pro as a
CDR went
junior.
pro.
Dorsey
He was a senior,
was a senior.
but he didn't have a great senior season.
I mean, he was dominant for being a center in college.
But he didn't have a great senior season. Neither did Shaq Goodwin.
Shaq Goodwin.
One of the reasons why
Shaq Goodwin didn't have a great freshman.
Wait.
sophomore season.
I'll tell you what, though. You know what made me think about it? I'll tell you why I said Shaq Goodwin. Is because they were talking about Jeremiah Martin and his place on the scoring list.
Yeah, he's moving up.
He's moving up, but he still has 40 points left to catch Shaq Goodwin. And I was like, how the hell did Shaq Goodwin score that many points and end up as 14th or 13th on the Tigers' all-time scoring list? I feel like he was underwhelming.
I mean, I guess if you stay here 4 years, and you end up somewhere on that list because some of the greatest players, most of the greatest players, didn't stay 4 years. So it's a function of time. And Shaq Goodwin was a contributing starter for 4 years. He contributed to the program, just consistently underachieving. Sort of the vibe from him. So, best senior year. Your answer, Joey Dorsey. And your answer,
I think it's hard to think of one.
well, we'll talk about it all show. 452-3094.
You know what?
We'll come back to it.
Was Joe Jackson's run through the tournament? That was his freshman year, wasn't it?
Yes. You're talking about the conference
When
tournament?
they beat UTEP and all that?
Yes, that was his freshman year.
That didn't really help them.
Also,
Yeah.
Jeremiah Martin's sixth 30-point game of his career, most of any Tiger player since the turn of the century.
Yeah, Mark, you said you were at the game. You were at the game,
For the
correct?
most part.
Okay, for the
For
most
the
part.
most part.
Yeah, we left a lot.
We went out to the alley, bought some drugs.
got a half pint of Jack, passed it back and forth. You, your half court, your 3-point shot buddy, and a homeless guy. Antoine Jones played 10 minutes. Did he play well? What's the story? I mean, it didn't look like I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of decent plays. I think there's a couple times the ball went off his hands, but it was tipped right before. He didn't make any great plays. Also, don't think he made any bad plays. It was just kind of meh.
He did have a foul, Ira. He played 10 minutes.
I think he had a few steals.
He had a foul, a block, and 3 steals.
3 steals, yeah. So I'm just a little concerned with what his story is.
Alex Lomax, 4 minutes.
Yeah. It happens.
That was the most surprising part, was that. And the fact that, literally in the second half, or most of the game, Hardaway usually subs a lot. And I feel like this game, he did not really sub at all.
I like that. You're getting late in the year.
Exactly.
Get your rotation set. Yeah. You know what? Contract extension, Penny Hardaway.
How long is his contract?
Tack 5 years on it. Hey, everyone's having fun. Was there joy in the building last night, Mark?
Oh, of course. Everyone was very joyful, very fun. You should have seen it. It was a fun atmosphere, Jay. It was unbelievable. The joy and the fun that there was. Who cares that we won? It's all about the joy and the fun.
Ouch.
14,747 in attendance at FedEx Forum.
Mark, are you a good judgment of the number of people in the building?
Yeah, there's maybe 9 to 10. Maybe.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
For a 6 o'clock game. But I mean, they announced attendance is 14,000, so that's fine.
Rainier Thornton Mellon with 14 points, 9 rebounds.
I don't know why I'm more partial to the Mount Rainier Thornton.
I don't know either, because you're disregarding maybe the best film.
Oh, that's the commercial I meant to get.
Maybe the best film that Rodney Dangerfield's ever been a part of.
Ooh, I think a lot of people with Caddyshack and Easy Money would tend to argue with you, but he was the actual star of Back to School.
Yeah, Caddyshack, you're right. That's a better film.
But you know what? I don't know.
Back to School is really good, though.
Back to School is really good. It's got an important message too.
Can we talk about Tulane Green Wave here?
Sure.
Is it called the Green Wave?
Yeah.
Or is it just Wave?
How about the uniforms?
Pitiful.
No, I thought they were cool.
Were those
man.
Mardi Gras specials?
Mardi
Is
Gras
it Mardi
specials.
Gras right now?
It's coming up.
Almost.
They had like the fleur de lis imprint on the tops. They had the purple and gold and green. It was pretty sweet, I thought. What do you want to talk about, Mark?
I mean, why are they so bad? Like, they have a decent coach. I don't understand how they're so bad. Are they rebuilding? Is he going to get fired at the end of the year?
It's his 4th year.
Third year, I think.
He might get fired. He might
Yeah,
quit.
3rd year. I think
he's got a decent pedigree, but he's doing a horrible job.
I mean, the Tigers didn't even play well last night. They won by
and their best players keep transferring, so that's got to tell you something else too.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't like his style or whatever. So, yeah, I think you can say goodbye to the Mike Dunleavy era. And you know what I say? Bring back Perry Clark. Bring back Perry Clark. Perry Clark's an assistant at Alabama or Georgia. No, South Carolina.
Still?
Yeah.
How do you know? You saw him on the
I
bench?
looked him up yesterday because I was like, and I used him as a picture on
I saw that.
on the website. So I was like, what's Perry Clark up to these days? I figured he was coaching the South Dakota Barnstormers I've never heard of it, semi-pro league or something.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it turns out he's an assistant for Frankie Martin. Frank Martin should be in the Mafia.
He is in the Mafia.
Yeah, well, if he's not, he should be. Him, Calipari, Catino.
So we'll come back to Tigers. We'll revisit the Tigers. Yeah, the college basketball coaching fraternity. You're right. It does have quite a mafioso type bend because it is, in a sense, organized crime.
Touche.
It is organized white-collar crime in terms of the bribery and racketeering.
I don't necessarily know about white-collar because, you have the laborers, too. You get the labor unions and stuff like that.
Yeah, but at the highest level,
it's
white-collar.
Sure. Hey, Jay, so, of course, the big thing everybody was talking about was the Duke-North Carolina game, and people were buying tickets for $10,000 or $5,000 or whatever it was, and it was like a huge deal. Turns out that North Carolina pumped Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium. And we don't have to get much into that because I don't know if any of y'all watched it. But Zion Williamson goes down in the first 30 seconds of the game. His shoe blows up, which everybody's talking about, how it's going to be a killer for Nike. Something tells me it's not exactly going to put them out of business. Yeah, exactly, Dino. But here's my question for you guys. We have seen in the past when college football players make a run the last 2-3, throughout a season, they're unbelievable. Their team is headed towards whatever bowl game, whether it be, a top-tier bowl game or a lesser-tier bowl game, and they decide they're not going to play because they don't want to risk injury in their draft status. So here's Zion Williamson, undisputed number 1 draft pick coming up next year.
They're going to be like heavyweight champion of the world.
The question is, if you're Zion Williamson and you've had this scare, do you continue to play?
Yes. I think with football it's different because a lot of those bowls don't mean anything. But like in the NCAA tournament, I mean, I know he's going number 1 overall, but like that's where almost I feel like you make your claim to fame when you're in college. Like Anthony Davis played, we knew he was going number 1. He played the entire tournament. Derrick Rose did too. I think when you look at these guys, you can't just sit out. I understand taking maybe extreme caution and be like, okay, we'll sit you out till the tournament.
Not to mention basketball injuries. I mean, you could do yourself some damage. There's no question there's a risk involved.
So that's the question. The question is...
But what risk?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, basketball injuries tend to not be, other than maybe for big men, they tend to not be as
He's
career-ending. So, I'm with Mark. You play.
But the real question is this: it's not.
What is the question?
It's not whether or not the games mean anything or not.
I thought the question was, do you play or not?
Do you play? I mean, if you're him,
yes.
do you play? So
Yes.
you say yes.
Yes. I mean, like Jay was saying, you tear your ACL, we've seen players come back and be just as dominant as before. Now, I'm not taking them a year or two to get there.
But do you really think that if he decided not to play, he would not be the number 1 draft pick?
No, he probably still would be.
Exactly. So there you go.
But it's the same thing with Derrick Rose.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I don't know if it's the same thing with Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose
distinguished
himself in that tournament. I don't know
He
before
wasn't
that tournament.
correct.
So, Ira, you bring up I'll give you this. That's a decent point.
And I'm not taking a side on it either. Of course,
Right.
That's what I do best is straddle the fence. But I'm not.
How does that feel?
It really leads to some chafing, but thank God there's Gold Bond medicated powder
And back cream.
in back cream.
Did you bring the back cream today, Mark?
Oh, I forgot. Sorry.
Way to go.
Give it away.
No, I mean I'm just curious because if we really feel like it's not going to hurt his draft status, then it might pay not to play.
What's bigger news, him playing or him not playing the rest of the season?
Oh, it'd be huge news if he did not play.
Didn't Kyrie Irving sort of
Kyrie Irving was hurt most of the season.
But was it a true
He was hurt legit, and then he played
in the
later.
tournament?
Yes,
And they lost early?
I think that's correct.
And then Embiid didn't play that much. I mean, you can say Michael Porter Jr., that affected his status, but Porter
By the
Jr.
way, how's he doing?
He's not playing this year.
Yeah.
Is he out the whole year?
He had back surgery.
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean,
All he needed was a little back cream, and he would have been fine.
Right? But, with him, I think it's different because, he sat out most of the season, came back for 5 or 10 games, and just didn't play that well.
Right. So I think
No kidding.
I think Williamson should wait until as late as possible to play again.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because they're going to get 1 seed almost locked up, maybe a 2 seed, but it doesn't matter if he returns in their 2 seed. They're still going to be dominant when he plays.
And probably. But
Hey, what is that stat called for the new RPI? What's it called?
The net.
the net.
The net.
Yeah.
We're going to look those up. We'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
there were also some other big upsets last night in college basketball. Georgetown, they're on their way back. They beat Villanova. Villanova's having a little bit of a hangover. LSU lost to Florida. Syracuse killed Louisville. And San Diego State beat Nevada. Dude, you can always count on our old boy Steve Fisher.
He ain't there anymore.
He's not?
No.
Who's the coach now?
I'll tell you in a minute.
What makes you say Steve Fisher's not the coach of San Diego State?
Because he's not the coach at San Diego State.
Um,
Ryan Dutcher is.
It's
Ryan Dutcher.
But Fisher, he didn't get fired though. He just retired.
No, he's like 100.
Hey, so was Pete Carrill, and he was a damn good coach.
He coached. Pete Carrill was an assistant in the NBA after he retired
I
from
know. Wasn't
Princeton.
it the funniest thing you ever seen?
Yeah,
For Rick Edelman on the bench of Sacramento.
right.
Old Carrill's there in the button-down cardigan.
Folks, call the show, text the show. Jeremiah Martin is having the best.
Call the show at the number 452-3094.
Yeah, text the show at Ira's phone, 901.
.net.
Is that with 2 or 3 E's?
Eatad.net.
E actually is 7 letters.
Call the show, 452-3094. Tell us, who is the best senior before Jeremiah Martin? Jeremiah Martin having a great senior year. Who had the best senior year before him? You're listening to the Eye on Sports with B-Ball Jones here, AM 1600, AM 730. We'll be right back.
I have a very honest golf instructor. This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Marks Bensdorf Realtors. My instructor is Marty Fuller, a PGA Life member whom you may remember from Plantation, Whispering Woods, or Holiday Golf Club. When I asked him what I might do to improve my game,
Mark, did you look at the score this
what did you
morning?
tell me? Sheldon, I told you to get your clubs together, put them in your car, and then take them to the nearest lake and toss them in. Great, Marty, you're a big fan.
No, I'm just being like the top news stories.
Selling homes than you'll
There's
ever
if
be.
you go to the news part, the top stories,
When you want the
if you
job
scroll
done,
down a bit, there's a story about Arizona
Thanks, Marty.
State.
And if you or someone you know is thinking about selling their home, you should talk to 2 to 3 real
Thought that was
estate
kinda
brokers
funny.
and make sure that I am one of them. Find out the difference in what they do in a highly successful strategic marketing program with the Shellbox option. You or they can reach me at 682-1868 or memphisrelocate.com.
Oh, I told you, baseball's huge with this.
At 682-1868 or
It's bigger than basketball.
Yeah. Now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
There's your Amex commercial.
Has worked a long, hard day
I
and he's
get it
got
higher.
money to show for it.
Turn it up.
Other people's money.
As high as it goes.
All right.
He's a pickpocket. His
Whenever you
take
put these in,
is $700.
take the volume higher.
I'll try.
It's dangerous to carry cash. Carry American Express traveler's checks. If they're lost or
Carl
stolen,
Malden.
you can get them back. Your vacation is protected. American Express traveler's checks. Don't have them.
Hey everybody, the Ion Sports here to tell you about Advatech. Advatech is a local IT company that manages your business's computer network and technology. They make sure your network is secure to prevent any type of security breach which could possibly compromise your company's information or your customer's information. Advatech is a one-stop shop for any computer problems. No need to waste valuable time on calling tech support. One call, they will handle everything for you. Advatech can also help you save on average $500 a month on your office phones and internet costs by doing a vendor cost analysis for their customers. If you own a business and are tired of frustrating computer issues, call Advatech. Advatech, we are your IT department. Call 901-262-7925 or email support at advatech.com. ADVATEK, Advatech, 262-7925.
San Diego State for 18 years.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I got a trivia question about that.
Get your steam shined up. Grab a stick
The commercial out of your favorite.
I love this one. You remember these, right? We have nothing in your mind. Juicy fruit is gonna move.
We're coming back.
Yeah.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Ion Sports with B-Ball Jones, brought to you by Juicy Fruit. The taste so smooth, it's going to move you. Juice so soft, gets right through you. We'd like to thank Juicy Fruit for sponsoring the show. Haven't gotten that check yet, but...
Yeah, and if they deny it, we'll remind them of their obligations.
All right, folks, we are talking about college basketball. Ira, the Nets...
Wait a minute. By the way, real quick, we were discussing something off the air about Steve Fisher, former coach of San Diego State.
Right.
You said he's like 100.
Yeah.
How many years difference do you think there is between Steve Fisher and Coach K? If you put a picture side by side, you'd say minimum 8 to 10 year difference.
Right. That's because Coach K goes to the hardware store every morning and buys a can of black spray paint for his hair.
Well, I'm talking about his face, though, even.
Right.
Is there any guesses? How many years?
I would guess that Coach K is 70 and that Steve Fisher is 74.
Fisher just turned 73.
Yeah.
And then Coach K is 72.
So I was exactly right.
You're close. Yeah, I mean, they're 2 years difference.
Yeah. No, I was close.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned also off the air that Steve Fisher had been at San Diego State for 18 seasons, which is crazy.
Yeah,
because you think of a guy, you're old like us. You think of a guy at one place, and he's been at another place for a long time.
Right.
So here's the trivia question. Was Roy Williams
Ooh.
at Kansas longer or shorter than he's been in terms of duration at North Carolina?
Shorter, easily.
That is incorrect. He
Yeah,
is,
obviously.
trick question, 15 years at Kansas
15 years in North
and now 15 years at North Carolina.
Okay, you're right. Then I shouldn't have said obviously.
But amazing to think about it. I mean, first of all, he got the Kansas job, and this is what I thought of when I turned on the game last night. I was watching God, North Carolina Duke, they've been going at it forever and ever, and Roy Williams has really been there a long time now.
Yeah.
I went to Kansas when Roy was there, so
Kansas.
I have a slight attachment to him. You got to remember, he got the Kansas job when he was 7 years old.
Sure he did.
Yeah. No, Roy Williams. How old do you think Roy Williams is?
Roy Williams was an assistant under Dean Smith. Who was he? Did he head coach before he went to Kansas?
No, he went from the assistant at
Wow.
North Carolina. Dean Smith basically got him the job. He
Right.
took over
But
at
that's
Kansas.
still a darn good hire for Kansas.
Darn good hire. He took over at Kansas when Larry Brown left,
To go to the NBA.
and the program was on probation.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so it was not a super attractive job. And he had 1 year where they couldn't go to the tournament. And the very next year they went to the finals. Or excuse me, they went to the round of 32. Then they went to the finals in 1991 with Mark Randall and
Mark Randall.
a couple other white guys. Ira, how old do you think Roy Williams
What
is?
year was Jacques Vaughn
Jacques Vaughn was a senior
when you were a senior?
when I was a
Oh,
freshman,
when you were a freshman.
I believe. They met by
So
the
Jacques Vaughn might have been on that team. That's what I'm saying.
No, I didn't get there till 95.
Oh,
Jacques Vaughn
okay.
was a junior senior.
Okay.
The student section was called the Jacques Straps.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, Mark once wore a red Speedo on national TV for Indiana.
Congratulations, Mark. What was that about?
It was actually a red suit, but thanks, Ira.
I thought you had to wear a Speedo.
No,
At a game.
it's my red suit.
I would guess that Roy Williams is 67.
He's 68.
It's a pretty good guess.
Ira, speaking of 68, what do you think the Tigers' net is?
Tigers' net is 67.
64.
That's not bad.
That is not bad. Does that put them in? Has anyone seen an NIT bracketology?
Mm.
Are they in or out of the NIT?
I think with the new rules regarding the NIT, meaning that the team that wins the regular season conference championship, if they don't win their conference championship and they don't get into the NCAA tournament, then they are automatically into the NIT. Something like that. Does that sound correct?
No, that is true. That is
Okay.
the rule.
So
but
then-
I still don't think that would rule Memphis out.
Well, no, but I think it
before.
depends on how many teams blow their conference tournament.
Well, yeah, but even if a lot of them blow it, that's putting you in pretty good position. I think.
I think they're in good shape right now. I think you can't afford. Let's just say they don't get a first round bye in the AAC tournament. I think they have to win at least a game, if not two, maybe. Two would be better. One would be, I think, probably sufficient.
3 would be tremendous.
If they win another couple games. So,
4 would be incredible.
in the conference tournament? Yeah, you think?
That would get the job done.
That would be put them in the tournament.
Tigers next play at Wichita State. Ira, you going? You driving up?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Well, I'm